Hello, everybody. This is Aurika Savickaite. I'm a co-founder of helmetbasedventilation.com. And today, I have a pleasure to interview a long team. And I will let them to introduce to our audience. So why don't we start with you, Chris?
Oh, well, my name is Chris Austin, president of C-Long Medical Systems, and been in this position since 16, like that, when my wife and Dr. Laura here and our daughter bought the company from the original owners that were up in Kentucky. And as they were wanting to retire, we purchased the company to make sure it lived on, because they had a great legacy with this product as they originated and built the original hyperbaric hood back in the early 80s. We felt worthy of making sure the company lived on, especially since I'm a patient. I have diabetic neuropathy, and I learned about the product from being in a chamber for hyperbarics and thought it was amazing. And then later on found out that it was for sale, so we bought it. But we were joined by Duke Eason. Duke Eason is our Chief Medical Officer. He's, well, I'll let him explain that better than
I think Chief Medical Officer is an excellent description.
Okay. And below we have Dr. Laura Austin, and she's an important part of the team. And we value her counsel very much, along with everybody else. So, but we do have a great team here, and actually we call it a family. We don't call it a team because we spend almost all of our waking hours here, especially during COVID crisis time. So we have to be pretty close.
So, yeah, this is what happened after the news coverage about helmet-based ventilation with Dr. Patel and Dr. Chris, and the reporters videotaped your, your helmet manufacturing, and this is when you really got busy. So, can you tell me a little bit about that time and what happened for your company for your helmet project and mission, and where you at now?
Well, it's kind of a Cinderella story in my opinion. I mean, we were a small mom and pop company, which we really still are, but we were working out of a shop behind our house here in Waxahachie, Texas. And once that hit, the first way we knew something was going on is when a reporter from the Wall Street Journal called me and was asking about the product and basically asked if he could do an interview. And I said, well, sure. I didn't think anything about it. Didn't even realize what was going to happen, of course. And he did the interview and put it out there. And as soon as that Wall Street Journal article hit, within 24 hours or less, we had calls from NBC, CBS, overseas newspapers, TV stations, New York Times. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. And it was just so overwhelming to see that kind of response. And then, of course, within about 48 hours of that occurring, we started getting huge amounts of orders, and our phones literally locked up and shut down. We couldn't take any phone calls. Every time you went to go take a phone call, you couldn't even pick the phone call up without it ringing. You'd be talking to somebody, we'd take the orders, and put the phone down. As soon as you put the phone down to hang up or push on the button, and you lit up, there was somebody there already. And it was like that for weeks and weeks. And it was very troubling because we knew we were missing a lot of phone calls. We were missing a lot of emails, and people were kind of getting upset with us that, hey, we've been trying to get a hold of this company, we can't get a hold of it. Of course, thousands of people were getting a hold of us, but there was who knows how many people who weren't getting a hold of us. And one is just too many. So that was very exciting times. We were at the shop, we called it, from 6 in the morning at least. That's when the workers would all show up, and we'd be there until midnight, 1 or 2 in the morning, and be right back the next day. So it was an interesting time, but it was critical to allow us to expand and grow the way we did so fast. And partially due to the caliber of people who believed in the product, but more importantly, maybe believed in the technology to save lives. And that's what we were all about. There's no way we could turn away anybody, because we always tried to put ourselves in their shoes, or their shoes, and watching their grandmother, grandfather, or son or daughter, for that matter, in that hospital bed. We couldn't bear not to do every single thing we could do. So that's what we did. And in the process, we quickly outgrew that facility. And due to the very gracious assistance from some pretty large companies who got it, who contacted us, we were able to expand from that small place now, and we're in a fairly large manufacturing facility now with all state-of-the-art equipment. And we brought production of the raw material parts that feed us into our own facility because they couldn't keep up. And so we said, well, if they can't keep up, we still have to do this. So we bought all the equipment and started doing it all ourselves right here in this factory.
Wow, that's amazing. And it happened in such a short time. When you think about the company growing from what you had in the beginning of March, right, and what you have now, it usually takes years to expand so quickly. But because you had so many people reaching out to help you, and I did hear that mentioned that people were driving from far away, and they were offering their help, volunteer, would sleep in the car, but still come and help you to produce more helmets to save the COVID patients. And again, I want to just mention that you knew about the helmet-based ventilation that is used in Italy for so many years now, before the pandemic. And this is when back in 2010, and you were working with Dr. Patel for her studies, right? And the paper.
Right. And we weren't personally, the company was, but they were very instrumental in that, of course. And that's part of the legacy that I saw when we decided to purchase the company. With the assistance of Dr. Laura and the other people involved in our circle, we just knew it was the right thing to do because of the way people needed this. We just couldn't understand why people weren't getting the non-invasive ventilation aspects of this type of a product. And we thought, oh, it'd be a piece of cake. We'll just go out there and get some information out and do this and do that. We'll have a really good success. And it didn't work that way.
Yeah, and I'd like to say on that, any great medical growth comes from situations like this. You think about amputees in the past and how wars caused that to develop. And so really we knew that there was a benefit and an opportunity to be using this hood for non-invasive ventilation. All of us anybody that's had any work in the medical realm could say what a benefit that is if you don't have to intubate a patient or trach a patient, and how much quickly they're going to get better, the amount of comorbidities that are not going to be there afterwards, all the negative side effects. So we knew there's an opportunity for growth there, but you have to get doctors and hospitals on board to do the research. We can't physically do the research. We've got to have those partnerships to help take this product and then say, hey, this is what it really can do. And so, Dr. Kress was able to do that, and it still needs more. Research is not done in one or two studies. We still need more doctors willing to take it even further than what has already been done to back up those randomized control trials and have multiples. We need multiple studies to continue to further this in order to really show that this is a huge benefit and very low cost. Very low negative side effects afterwards, and overall a much quicker healing time. If you can get patients out of the ICU quicker, the cost of care goes down. And that's what we're all looking, in the grand scheme of things, when we're looking at, we want best evidence, best care for the patients, as low cost as possible.
Yeah.
Yes, and you covered all the benefits of the helmet-based ventilation so well, Laura. And maybe this is, you can tell me more about clinicians who, and hospitals who bought helmets. What feedback did they have? And also, if you have a patient story, I would like to hear it. And I believe listeners would love to hear it too.
Well, I know in the heat of it, we were getting calls from nurses, from doctors begging for the product. We couldn't get it out fast enough. There's always that financial part that we needed that backing to get more machines to manufacture as fast as possible. We had people working day and night, like Chris said. And then turn around, we would get videos, we'd get emails. I know Chris could go into more detail about those, but of how many patients we saved, feeling a part of that, what was going on in New York and in other states that were really hard hit, and saying, at the end of the day, we can really feel good about what we're doing because people's lives were saved, that we were getting that feedback directly from the healthcare professionals that were on the front line, seeing this and facing it every day, and having to be worried about those patients that they're dealing with. I know Chris has a couple stories of some context that he received personally about the product.
Oh yeah, we do. We have quite a few. But one thing I wanted to start with, though, that you hit on a good point, is how the bureaucracy of the hospitals was a big hindrance early on, because there's a lot of things that have to happen. And I'm not going to go into any names or anything, but we had quite a few doctors buying themselves out of their own money to get the product shipped to them right away to their homes, because they couldn't go through channels, and they knew it would take weeks and weeks. And they would tell us that I'm looking right here, and they would tell us that if I don't get this to them by day after tomorrow, they'll be dead. I know they will be dead. So we made the call early on to ship everything overnight. Anybody who came to us and said, we need a product, and we would eat the difference between overnight shipping and regular freight or ground or whatever, because we could get them there right away at night. And because we did have such a large volume, we had really good turnaround. We have 2 pickups a day from FedEx, or so. So we knew we could fulfill that need, so we did. Now about the stories, a couple of things that stick out was this one doctor who called and was explaining that she knew that this person, and it was a lady patient that she'd become pretty attached to, and the doctor was just in tears. We had a video conference like this, and she was just bawling and in tears, saying, I don't think she's going to live. This lady is so nice. And it was an older lady she was talking about. What can you do? Can you help us? And we said, well, we don't know, ma'am, but we'll ship you whatever we think and you think will help. So we did that. She got it the next week. She called us at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We grabbed the products. We were already too late for a pickup, so we ran to the local shipping house. I won't give the brand, which is about 9 miles away, because we're kind of out here in the country. Got all the products in there. Literally, I had to hold the door open as my wife Valerie ran through, so the door wouldn't shut and lock, because they closed like whatever it was, 5 o'clock or something, for us to get this thing shipped out. And the person just looking at us like, well, I'm holding this automatic door open so we could get through there and get the shipping. But it did happen, and the product was there the next day by 10 o'clock in the morning, and I won't even go into where it was, but it wasn't close to us. It was across the country. And she called us later that very same day, and I don't remember what time it was, but she was bawling again and crying. I'm thinking, oh no, this is terrible. The lady finally passed or something. No, I said, she's recovering. And I don't remember the numbers, but her oxygen saturation has went from like 40%, where we knew she was going to die, and now it's 75% in a matter of hours. And on like that. And she called us back in about a week and said she's made almost a miraculous recovery. And she's bawling and crying, and then I'm bawling and crying, and Valerie, you're all bawling and crying. But stuff like that, we keep a lot of tissues around here, which I don't see anymore. And that's just one of the byproducts, your tissue manufacturer. There's one. We moved it because of anyway, it's amazing.
Yeah, what a story. And I think there are more stories that you didn't even hear yet, and definitely more patients who are sharing their experience on helmet and how close they were to get intubated. And what we know from anecdotal, from anecdotal, data that about 35% of patients avoid intubation, and that's at that point where we had no other choices. That was, you're getting intubated, or if you are lucky and your hospital has a helmet that can be used for you, then you have that chance to avoid intubation and actually survive. We're not saying that the helmet is replacing the ventilator, but we're saying that this is one more step that can be taken for these very sick patients. And like Laura said, we do need more research. We need more trials. I know that the Italians did a lot of research, and they did an amazing job. All the information that they are sharing is so useful, and there's more info is coming now during the pandemic, how we used helmets for the COVID patients. Also, at this moment, I can see that a lot of underdeveloped countries are looking into non-invasive ventilation via helmet to save the patients and also to protect their medical staff. Now, do you sell any of your helmets to other countries? Do you ship abroad?
Well, that's a good question. We've shipped a lot of helmets outside the U.S., and we still are. As a matter of fact, just since the escalation, the increasing problems in the Southern Hemisphere, we've shipped parts to several countries in South America and South Africa. Where else? Indonesia. Lots of places that we've had some good response from and very good interest. And we've even talked about trying to find ways to help them in certain key areas manufacture the helmet itself to try to increase the ability to support the need, because from what they're telling us, and these are the actual physicians in the hospitals, that it's far worse than we saw here with the first wave. And that just breaks their heart, as I'm sure it does everyone's. So.
Yeah, and when we talk about other countries, so we know that helmet is not very expensive device comparing to what we're using in ICU for the non-invasive ventilation or ventilators. So the helmet is very cheap, and also it's very simple device to use. And this is what Italians been using, and not just Italians, other European countries been using for over 30 years. And it's sad that in US only now during the pandemic, physicians started to look into this option. And I can tell you from my experience that a lot of physicians are asking for more research from US. Well, we have a lot of research from European countries, and it is high quality research with lots of data, lots of patients who used non-invasive ventilation via helmet. And maybe Dr. Duke can tell me more about the benefits of that, of helmet ventilation, and also what that research shows from European countries.
Sure, okay. The benefits of positive pressure in non-invasive ventilation are a significant portion are what patients avoid, in addition to the benefit that the patients receive. There's an M&M risk anytime you are forced to ventilate and intubate a patient. So not only the teeth injury, but just simply there is a rate of significant injury, even death, that comes from even a simple and planned intubation. The placement of the breathing tube in between the vocal cords interrupts the reflexive airway protection that most humans have. And the cough, the droplet down the wrong pipe, everybody's aware of how that effectively and immediately cannot be avoided. You're going to cough, and that's how it is. But without that protective reflex, then the normal airway secretions that come down, they can get into the lungs. And that leads to the association with pneumonia. Ventilator-associated pneumonia is a well-known phenomenon. Because of the risk of that, long-term, 7 to 14 days, based on individual patient requirements, are indicative of a tracheostomy in order to secure the airway and reinstitute the protective reflexes above. Very few patients and families are happy to see that as the long-term care choice for a ventilated patient. But that is the lowest overall risk for them to face. So those are the things that one avoids when you're able to either diagnose and prescribe this particular technique, or that you would enjoy if you are a patient who can get this technique. In addition to the same concept, in simple explanation, the pursed lip breathing that people do in mountain climbing, where they breathe and puff on the exhale rather, that allows the recruitment of the alveoli in the lungs. Those structures oxygenate better when they stay open. And when you're having trouble breathing and you're breathing out forcefully, those little saccules want to fall closed. So this helmet actually is an extension of that type of interaction. It's simple, it's direct, easy to understand the physics and physiology. And it really has made a big difference. I can't say that I'm aware of any specific bias against European-based research. I mean, the power of the study is the power. The number of patients and cases utilized is the meta-analysis. Is they all have to reach the same conclusion. But it seems to me that until this COVID and until the media took the C-long device and technology and brought it out in, very few of the physicians, even in the intensive care unit, were aware of a lot of that European technique, even though it had been used for several decades.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, Dr. Eason. You explained it so well. It's, again, very simple device, and we know we have already protocols how to use it that are for free. They are all published. You can find them on helmetbasedventilation.com, also at University of Chicago Hospital website, also Penn Medicine website. So these protocols were developed by Dr. Patel and Dr. Savickaite. And I'm hoping that we will have more clinicians, taking that extra step in helping the patients, especially COVID right now, where non-invasive ventilation is so important. And now we know that some states are experiencing a huge rise in COVID cases. Some are taking some break. But still, all the clinicians who are not even having now COVID patients, I think it's a good time to learn the system, because we know COVID patients will not disappear this year. We know there will be another flu season, and again, it can be used not just for the COVID patients. The paper from University of Chicago Hospital, they had patients in ARDS. So now it's good timing, actually, to prepare for that next peak that's going to hit your country, your state, or your hospital. So clinicians, please, read the research that Italians done in so many years, and all the protocols are out there. You can learn the system so easy, and make sure you have the respiratory therapist on your team, which is, again, very important piece for the success. And honestly, I can say that respiratory therapists, they get the system so quickly. It takes me like 15 seconds to show them the helmet, and we know how it works. So again, when you have a good team of experts, you will make it happen, and you will see all the benefits that helmet-based ventilation can bring.
I agree. if you look behind us there, you can see that wall of boxes. And I swear that wasn't done for this video. That goes on for about 50 feet back the other way and about twice that wide, that we're building in advance to be ready for the next wave, because we know it's going to happen. Everybody who's involved in it knows it's going to happen this fall, if not here somewhere. So we have to be ready.
Yeah, exactly. We're fighting a war here. We had few battles that, we got hurt. Some states did very, very well and some didn't. So again, let's get ready for the next battle. And this is why I want to ask you, Chris, about the helmet design, because you did make some changes on the helmet design. And I will be making a new video review for your new helmet that you are shipping now to the hospitals. So then clinicians have a better understanding what the new helmet looks like.
Right. Well, to look at, you can't tell a whole lot of difference, and we just so happen to have one. The main improvement is the clips, which we invented for start of the COVID. We had some problems early on, and that's because due to the speed of the need for us to get the product out there so fast, our supplier that were 3D printing all these parts for us to be quicker at the distribution had a little bit of wrong material in there, not wrong material, not enough material, so they became brittle and would break. There was only there was one order of about 500 of them, but those did go to a few different places. So there was a couple of problems with the clips breaking, but that's all been corrected now. And we're even coming out with a newer design clip that's going to be much better than that one. I won't go into that. But we also increased the thickness of our neck seal material, so it's much more robust. So that was another big improvement. We are in the process of we did come out with better training materials to instruct on how to cut the neck seal, because it is a certain procedure that you need to have. But all in all, there mostly was information to provide to the user on how to properly use what there was. Because the design's been around for a long, long time, and it's been proven repeatedly to be really strong. Let's see, the O-rings seal was redesigned slightly to hold more pressure, so it won't come apart. And the majority of the time, it won't come apart if installed correctly. You have to make sure that there's a proper placement of it. But that's all outlined now in our publication. So we did have lessons learned. I mean, there was a trial by fire, and it was.
And you did add one very important feature to your helmet. You did add your in and out ports actually on the hood itself. So you have.
Those have been there all the time.
Because at the University of Chicago, when the study was done, the helmet didn't have ports on the sides. It was only.
We have both models, and we always pretty much always have. Here's one that doesn't have them, and this is also our small hood. It's hard to tell. You see how much smaller it is.
Yeah.
So we have two sizes of hood, and ported and non-ported. So we've always had that.
Okay. Well, I learned something new.
Not as many people want those. They tend to want this more because you see that much more prevalent out there in the marketplace. But it's just.
So now, are you collaborating with any other teams that make accessories for the helmet? For example, any connectors, filters, PEEP valves, because you do have kits that are for sale. And then, can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. Well, when it first started, we knew right away that we wanted to make it as easy for the end user as possible. So we developed the hyperbaric or the NIV kit, which had every single piece in it that the person would need. The straps, which is, by the way, I forgot that those have been improved so they can take a lot more pressure. And several other products, the one-way valves, the filters, the PEEP valves, all of that stuff that we knew based on responses from the first doctors that used them, we put it all in one bag along with the hood. So here's this bag. It's got everything you need for your patient. And that's what we developed and put out into the marketplace. And we've had a couple of companies that really helped us. A company called Impact out of Texas here, and they do our 3D printing for a lot of the parts, the clips, and several things over there that are still to come. Then one of the biggest boosts that we had early on was once the news stories hit, I received a call one day, and the individual was the CEO for Virgin Galactic. And he said, Chris, I just saw you on NBC, the Today Show, and I really think that we're supposed to help you. We want to come alongside and help get this product to the market as quick as possible. He said, what do you need? And we had already placed the order for 4 more RF welding machines that make the helmet, because we knew we were going to need it regardless. And even if I had to sell our house, we knew we were going to do it. And he said, well, where are they? Who has this equipment? And I explained it to him. And then about 2 hours later, I received a call from this company who was a very great company out of New Jersey, Selectric. And said, Chris, somebody just called and paid for all your machines. They'll be on the truck tomorrow. And they were here in 2 days after his phone call. And within 3 more days, they were all up and running, and we had a complete shop running full speed. And that was still in the old place. So it was a little tiny. It was a oversized 2-car garage. So
wow, this is amazing.
And then we had other companies come alongside us, like Philips Respironics, been great helping us find products, raw materials like PEEPs and the fittings and the adapters, because they're hard to come by now because everybody's gobbled them up. What else? No, I'm forgetting somebody important here. I mean,
you did have a lot of visitors also to see the production, to learn about it, because I know that NASA team, they work with Virgin Galactic and a spaceship company. They got a lot of ideas from you, from your helmet design.
Virgin Galactic spent a little over a week here helping us with all this get put together. But another big impact, which I feel so stupid for not remembering, is General Motors, the car company. There's a major plant that they have about 30 miles from us here. And one day, 2 gentlemen showed up at our fence. We have our properties fenced all the way around. And we're looking outside, and there's these 2 gentlemen in suits standing at our gate out there on the edge of our property. So we walked over there, and they introduced themselves as general managers for General Motors, and they wanted to help. Which of course we said, okay, we'd love to do that. Well, General Motors sent their elite team of probably 25 people, men and women, that showed up. And that was the team that goes in and builds their new assembly lines. Whenever they bring out a new model, this team goes in and completely remodels their assembly line for these new products to be made. Well, they spent almost a month with us and built this entire facility, state of the art, using their technology and their equipment. And they even brought in a lot of their own equipment for free, built this stuff. And we figured they were going to do all this and walk away. Well, no, it's still here. They were just phenomenal. And we plan to do a video on that. We recorded a lot of video and information because of how phenomenal it was and the work they did. And just can't say enough for how much of a blessing these teams have been for us. And I mean, I can't tell how many lives they've saved.
This is where, during these times of crisis, this is where the biggest pleasure is actually giving. And you received so much help, and at the same time you're giving so much to others by making these helmets. And how many helmets can you make now? So you increase the production tremendously, probably, right?
Before we were making about 60 a week. for hyperbaric use. And if we needed to get a big order, we could make 100 a week if we really worked at it. Now we have a capability of 1,000 hoods a day, and the quality has increased exponentially. We have 2 people's full-time job is just doing quality checks. And with Dr. Laura's assistance, we've been putting a lot of quality protocols in place really continuously through the production line. And every single hood, all along, ever since the company started, every single hood is pressure checked with the next seal that it goes with. So, and they're checked to far more than anything we would have to do, 2 PSI to make sure they don't leak. And if they leak, we dissect it, learn from it, and make improvements if we have to. But it's more to the process than anyone would think, just looking from the outside at the product. How difficult can it be? But when what's at stake is understood, we couldn't do any less.
Yeah, but that's how it should be. It's a medical device. You want to make sure it doesn't fail. You want to make sure that, especially in the respiratory distress, and, Dr. Eason can agree with me, seconds are really long. And you want to make sure that the equipment is, high quality and it doesn't break. And this is why I want to take a moment and just advise to all the clinicians, to all the non-invasive ventilation champions who's watching this interview, to take some time and actually know the product. Make sure that you get it connected correctly. Make sure that you test it, that you inflate it before applying it on a patient. This is a very important piece. This is not the time where you can cut the corners, especially when you're learning the equipment for the first time. And as I mentioned, it is a simple device. But again, there is a learning curve, and we have to all go through it. So on that note, I want to just say thank you to all of you. And if you have anything else to say, please take your time and tell me if you need any help or you have advice or anything.
I wanted to chime in with the comment you made a little earlier. This technology and the helmet respiration, ventilation opportunity. It's in much the same way as Tom Hanks' career could have been sidelined and typecast at any one time. Forrest Gump, for example, he could have been unable to get another role after that. We don't want this type of ventilation to only be associated with the COVID virus. There are so many places in the respiratory failure, cascade, that this type of intervention could really change outcomes. And the fact that it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, and it doesn't have $1 million minimum buy, it's not what most Americans are used to going for. But if it's simple and effective, maybe we need to reconsider that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That will raise our price to $2,000 a hood. Whatever helps, just try to help. Not really, don't worry.
No. And I think it's important to say that, in the heat of it, when the pandemic was first starting and we had one machine going, and, we were very reactive in our response to things that needed to be changed, things that needed to be implemented. It's kind of in the moment, some of the physicians' feedback. And now we're able to take another step and be more proactive with the quality that we're giving, getting feedback even more so from the physicians, from how, like, the clips and things like that maybe haven't worked to the spec that we had hoped, to make sure that quality is even better, that our customer service is even better, in order to put that quality product out there. Because we know that it's desperate. When you have to pull that hood out, it's a desperate time. So we want to make sure it does what we say it's going to do.
Yes.
I think that's what I'm trying to get to. We need to get to this helmet intervention before it becomes desperate. There are places to get to where we could do this as a medium level intervention and really change outcomes. Because if you wait until innovate or hood or helmet, what if you did hood or helmet versus high flow? So you can divert patients off that downward path earlier. I think that's an important message for the clinicians out there. You know, look at this opportunity earlier in the care path.
Yeah.
We had that feedback by quite a few of them saying, oh, it took us a little bit, but we learned that. Get it on sooner, the results are much better.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. And, you know, when you're learning the new helmet-based ventilation, well, it's not new, I should not say that, but when you're learning that, make sure you choose the first patient, you know, carefully too. Don't choose the patient who is already, you know, failing all the non-invasive ventilation and who's maybe elderly. So start early. Look at your patients. Try first on the volunteers. By the way, July is here, so we have a lot of interns coming to the hospitals. So this is the time when you can try on interns and we can learn about it. So here we go. We're going to have a new generation of physicians who will be maybe champions of the helmet-based ventilation. So thank you so much, and I can't wait to get the helmet from you, Chris, and I will do the video review of it. And I'm wishing you all the best luck, and looking forward for our next interview where we can share more success stories. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and the helmet-based ventilation website, non-invasive ventilation website, sorry, has been a great benefit for the world. And thank you and your team for doing that. It's been invaluable.
Thank you, Chris.